Daring Greatly is be all in, and Rising Strong is fall, learn, get up, and do it again. And so it's the most personal book because as I was writing it, really the heart of this book is about these really dangerous stories we make up when we're in the midst of struggle, when we're in a fall. We are neurobiologically hardwired to make sense of that fall, to make sense of our hurt as fast as we can. And if we can come up with a story that makes sense of it, our brain chemically rewards us for that story, whether it's accurate or not. And so for me, what became very important is to write a book to help people understand when you fall, the stories you make up about your fall need to be really tested. And so as I was writing it, what I realized was that my stories of failure and heartbreak were the ones that gave me the most access to understanding what was happening behind the scenes in the story. Because we all do it. We all do it. I mean, if you and I finish this interview and we walk down the hill, and I say, thanks a lot, I really appreciate it, and you go like this, my brain takes that as anxiety or fear, and I immediately make up a story. I knew she never liked me. That Super Soul Sunday really sucked. I didn't do the right thing. It was terrible. And then all of a sudden, I'm working off a whole narrative. How I treat you the next time I see you is off that narrative.
Wow.
And then, it just keeps going and going.
So how do we make sure that, or know that the story that we're telling ourselves is in alignment with what actually did happen? Yeah.
That's the Rising Strong process.
That's the Rising Strong process.
Right. So if we use that example of just you and I together. And so there's 3 pieces: the reckoning, the rumble, and the revolution. The reckoning has 2 seemingly easy, but pretty difficult pieces. The first thing I have to do is when you look at me like that and I feel something in response to it, I have to acknowledge, a button's been pushed. I've been hooked on something emotional is happening here. I'm responding. And then I have to be willing to get curious about what it is. So instead of immediately going to my crazy story, I have to go to, okay, I'm emotionally hooked around something. I don't know what just happened, but I'm feeling like stressed out about it, or it hurt my feelings or something, and I need to figure out more. I mean, and
the reckoning is actually the recognition of it.
Reckoning. Something emotional has happened. But the big piece of the reckoning, and this is the part that really shocked me, is I'm willing to get curious and look into it. Do you know how many people are not curious about emotion because that was just drilled out of us growing up? People are not curious about emotion. What's so crazy about curiosity when I was doing the research is, did you know that we're not curious about things that we don't know a little bit about? We have to know a little bit about something in order to even be curious about it.
Yes.
But people are not curious about emotion because most of us grew up, myself included, in families where we did not talk about feelings.
Of course not.
We heard one of these messages, whether that's vulnerability and weakness, or that won't do you any good.
Or talking about it.
No. People like us don't talk about stuff like that.
That's right.
Right. So it's a bigger step. The reckoning is a bigger step than you think, because you have to realize you're triggered and then get curious about it. And I'll tell you the other thing. We are much better at causing hurt than feeling hurt. We're much better at inflicting pain than feeling and acknowledging pain. So it could be more likely that if you gave me a look and when I said thank you, it's very possible that how that would happen is I get back, up to the house to get changed, and my phone rings and it's my daughter asking to go somewhere. I'm like, hey, just because you got your license doesn't mean that you get to drive around all the time. You'll keep your butt at home today.
So then you inflict whatever that is you're feeling on the next person.
Right.
Oh, it happens over and over and again all day long.
Right. We just offload pain instead of feel it. So I'm asking, like, this thing in the reckoning was to know, I'm emotionally hooked and I need to figure out what's going on. I mean, if you can get that far in this process, that is a big deal. That is a reckoning. That's a fierce reckoning. I know something's going on. I'm less likely to work it out on my employees or my kids or my friends.
And the big thing is to recognize that when you're hooked, that it's your hook, it doesn't necessarily have anything to do with the other person.
Nothing. Nothing. And people that know they're hooked different ways. Like for me, I find myself in the pantry. Yeah, I usually forage for carbohydrates.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, right. It's,
Literally to make myself feel better.
yeah, literally to like push
Ease
down.
something. Yeah. Yes.
And other people know they're hooked because they go into the loop in their head. They replay it over and over and over again 1,000 times.
Mm-hmm.
Some people know they're hooked because they want to punch somebody in the face or knock out a wall.
Mm-hmm.
So learning the signs of being hooked are really important.
And that's a part of the reckoning.
That's a part of the reckoning.
Got it.
Yeah, and then I'm curious. I wanna, and it's that easy. Like, man, something is going on. I gotta figure it out.
But this process of understanding that rising strong means you look directly to yourself for what was it about that
Right.
that got me upset.
Yeah,
It has
what's
nothing
going
to do
on?
with the other
No.
person. It's what's going on with me.
No.
Why am I feeling so anxious? Yeah.
I tell you one thing that has been huge for me is that I have come to learn fully that my healing, whether it's a small altercation like this or a really big wound, is not dependent on other people. I need to figure out why I'm hooked, and I need to get curious about what's going on for me.